Hello guys, here Gabby again. Hello guys, here Gabby again. Today we're going to talk about a little bit about APIs in .NET Microservices. Okay, so everyone talks about APIs, but many teams treat them as just endpoints. They ignore the complexity that an API could have. So they ignore the contracts, they mix the transport with business logic, and they choose technologies without understanding the trade-offs of those decisions. So that's how APIs becomes brittle. Okay, so in this video, in my experience, I will try to explain a little bit about what an API really is, why or why we could choose to use REST, for example, in our microservices, and when other options like GraphQL or gRPC could actually make sense. Um, but let's begin with the concepts and something. An API is not our code, okay? The API is our contract. Is the contract between external microservices or external client applications, the user interface, back office, something, okay? And contracts are hard to change once they are in production because it's a contract. With the contract, we established the limit that we are operating between the use cases of the business and so on, okay? So what an API really is? An API is a contract that allows a consumer to interact with a system. Okay, I have a system, I have a contract, I give the contract to a customer and I tell, hey, this is the contract from our system. You can use this contract, and this contract has possibilities of a request. You need to send me this in this way, to this form, to this, and in response I could send you other stuff. Okay, so that contract includes endpoints, request and response with many shapes, HTTP status codes, authentication and authorization, and standardized error handling. Remember that authentication and authorization is who you are and what can you do, for example. An API defines how the outside world sees your system, okay? All our internals can change, but the external layer from our backend are going to be uh, the, the API, what we expose, okay? The internals can change, the implementations can change, but the contract must remain stable, okay? That's why API design matters so much, because they are not only endpoints, they are a lot of things like error handling, middlewares, pipelines, validations, and so on. It's the transport layer of and the communication from the outside and the inside. So why we use REST? In microservices in production, at least where I worked, we use REST over HTTP. Why? Because REST is a widely accepted standard, highly interoperable, easy to consume by different clients, well supported by tooling, proxies, and gateways, and REST works extremely well for client to service communication, CTS communication, client to service communication, microservice integration, observability and monitoring, HTTP caching, API management through gateways. Here we can make a mention about the APIM that we have with Azure. Okay. So that's an interesting stuff. In short, REST optimizes operability, not just code. Okay. So remember, uh, it's highly interoperable. We can use different clients. That's very, very important, and we have a widely standard around the globe with REST. Okay. On the other hand, can we use GraphQL or gRPC? Yes, yes, we can. But for example, we choose REST when we want simplicity, strong standards, clear contracts, native HTTP features like caching, easy integrations with API Gateway, and REST is the default for most business APIs. Okay, native HTTP, easy integration with API Gateway, clear contracts, strong standards, and simplicity. It's clear, it's simple, it has a standard. Okay, simple, it's clear, it has a standard, and has an easy integration with the outside layer like the API gateways. Okay. GraphQL. When we would use GraphQL? When the client needs very flexible queries. Okay. Different screens need different data shapes, and when we want to avoid overfetching or underfetching. GraphQL shines when the client drives the shapes of the data, not us. Okay. When the client drives the shape of the data, it creates, it do a lot of things, it manipulates it, it generates all our data. I think GraphQL is a good option because we have schema management, caching strategies, and operational concerns. It's powerful but not free. For example, and talking about free or whatever, we can talk about performance or optimization or fast blazed things like, for example, we have the other alternative that is gRPC. gRPC, we can use it when we have or when we want communication service to service, performance and low latency are critical when we need streaming and we control both sides of the communication. Okay. I repeat that the communication service to service, no client to service or whatever. Okay, a service to a service. The performance is critical. The performance is critical, low latency, and it's very, very important. So it has an inside and inner optimization that we have to get into consideration. Okay, gRPC is great for internal systems where throughput and efficiency matters more than the human readability. Okay, so as an actual decision, why do we choose REST? Because it's optimized for interoperability, operational simplicity, clear integration with the API management, client compatibility. Okay, it's simple, it's clear, it has a standard, it can integrate well with the API gateway, and it's the common standard that we all can use. Okay. The problem here is that, for example, if we have to evaluate seriously high performance with internal communication, we use gRPC. If it's a data-driven microservice or system where the external users or clients are who are shaping all the data inside, I would choose a GraphQL. So that's it. The final takeaway is that the API is a contract. API is a contract, the contract between our internal system, how we do things internally, and the outside. Okay, that's the contract. You have this, you can operate with this, you have these functions, this, and that. and we have various forms of communicate that contract or translate that contract. That is REST, GraphQL, and gRPC. Okay, REST for simplicity, interoperability, clarity, and standards. It's the most wide and useful that we have. GraphQL for the flexible client needs. Okay, because for example with gRPC or else REST, we have defined contracts, and it's very maybe when we are in production, it's most difficult to change that because perhaps we have to release new versions, versioning, do a lot of tabs, and the GraphQL can give us the flexibility that we want. Okay. A good API design starts with understanding who is the consumer and what problem we are solving. We need to understand, okay, I need to resolve this problem. Okay, I'm going to have this design, this architecture. This is the problem that I want to resolve. And who are going to consume this system that we are going to create? It's optimal critical performance. It's an standard with a interoperability, simple, clear standard contract, or else the final user needs all the flexibility to retrieve the data. So that's it for all. Hope you this help you guide through .NET fundamentals, and have a nice day. Bye bye.